Hello, I'm Becky Dowd, and this is The Journey to Salvation. Join me as we walk alongside real people and hear the unique journeys that led them to faith in Jesus. Today, my guest is Nita Stone. Hello, Nita.
Hi, Becky.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for asking me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, so we got to know each other about 6 years ago in a pottery class at the local community college. And since then, I think you got to know a friend of mine, and y'all are pretty close, Kim.
Oh, yes. Love her. She's so sweet.
And so I've seen you a few times off and on since then, but I'm so glad you came in to share your story.
Thank you.
So, Nita, why don't you share with us kind of how it was growing up for you, maybe till you reached 18 years old?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because things really changed after that. But as far as my childhood, I feel like I grew up in a Leave It to Beaver kind of home. Mm-hmm. My dad was a deacon in church. My mom taught Sunday school, sang in the choir. And we went to church literally every time the door was open, and then some for revivals and different things. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for the most part. She tried working outside the home a time or two, but just her heart was with us, and it just didn't work out. And then my dad worked sometimes 2 or 3 jobs just to keep us fed and clothed and have what we needed. And we always had what we needed, sometimes what we wanted. But we went on family vacations, and it seemed pretty normal, I would think. I mean, that's all that I knew. But if I had one word to describe my childhood, it might be confusing. Because even though my dad was a deacon and mom taught Sunday school, the Bible was never opened in our home. The only prayer that I remember, they probably said with us at nighttime when we were little, the "Now lay me down to sleep," little child's prayer. And then, of course, we prayed over meals. But I don't ever remember a discussion about the Lord or any family devotions or anything like that. And maybe it was just, the way things were at that time. But we never had any kind of spiritual activities or anything at home. It was always just church. And beside that fact, my dad, who was well-respected in church and a deacon, and I'm sure loved us very much, followed the pattern that he knew when he was a little boy of extreme rage from his dad and abuse. And he did not abuse my sisters, my sister or brother, one sister or brother. He did abuse my older brother. And it was very distressful to hear him screaming. It almost sounded like he was climbing the walls when my dad would spank him with the belt, just out of control. And I always wondered why my mom didn't do anything, but that was kind of the culture of the day for them to not. And later we asked, and she said she was afraid. And that really hurt, because I'm thinking, mothers usually would do anything to protect their children, but
she was afraid of your dad's anger.
Yes, yes.
See
so we were like the model church family, but at home it was just different. And they loved us, and we did fun things, and they took care of us. But I don't remember a closeness. I think they weren't very present. My mom, when she decided to stay home, still needed an income. So she babysat 10 children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from an infant up to school age. And so therefore there was really no time for her to spend with us or, help us with homework or anything like that. So it was a confusing time for me. And I guess all through my childhood and up into the teen years. Yeah.
So how was it being a teenager?
I was kind of on my own. I was never told about boys or their wiles and that sort of thing, never warned. And all I remember is one day my mom was sewing. She made a lot of our clothes. And she called me into her sewing room and said, "Hey, here's a book on what's going to happen to you about, the monthly cycle. And I'm like, oh, great. And that's all that I remember as far as any kind of instruction. So I felt like I was kind of on my own as far as that goes. And any information I got about being a teenager, growing up, or boys or any of that was from slumber parties. So you can imagine some of the knowledge that I gained there.
Yeah.
And I would have to say I was looked on as the good kid, one that always tried to obey and never got in trouble. I was a good student, kind of maybe borderline teacher's pet because I made good grades. I studied hard. I didn't get in trouble. And that was all through high school. And then at age 18, it was the summer after I graduated, my boyfriend joined the Army. And before he left, he wanted me to come over. He said, I'm going to be gone. He said, come over, let's watch some TV, cook together. We were going to cook spaghetti. Oh, my goodness, it sounded like so much fun. His parents were not going to be at home. So I thought, oh, yeah, we can kind of play house and snuggle. It sounded kind of fun to me to do all that. And then that was not what he had in mind. So it led to coercion into having sex with him. And I was very, very shy in high school. And I didn't fight him, but yet I guess, let him. And so I feel like it was a date rape, pretty much. And it led to me getting pregnant because I knew nothing about my body or how that worked. And I was pretty innocent about all that. And so I became pregnant, and I couldn't tell my dad, who was a deacon, my mom, who was a Sunday school teacher. So I had started working during school in a program called distributive education, where you work half a day and go to school half a day. And the lady that I worked for in a little purse shop was pretty immoral. She would go to clubs every night and talk about these different men she'd be with. And so I thought, well, gosh, I could tell her because she wouldn't judge me, and I didn't want to hurt my parents. So I told her, and she said, oh, that's no big deal. And I said, well, it is to me. She said, no. She said, last year a girl got pregnant that worked for me, and I just told her she should have an abortion. And I said, well, what's that? I'd never heard the word before in my life. And she said, well, just go to the doctor and, make sure you are, and we'll go from there. So I did. And even the doctor mentioned, you're young, you're a teenager, you could just have an abortion. And then he explained it to me a little bit more. He said, well, abortion is just a simple procedure. And all it is that the baby, it's not a baby yet. So if you hurry up, it's just a blob. We'll just take it out and you'll be fine. You can go on and live your life. And I thought, oh, wow. So in my head, my, teenage head, I'm just like, I won't be pregnant anymore. I had no idea that it was a baby, because all I ever wanted to be was a wife and a mother, kind of like my mom was. And that was in the fall of 72, the year that I graduated. Well, you know what happened in January of 73. That's when Roe versus Wade hit the fan, and all you heard about, it's a baby, and the other side was it's a woman's choice, a woman's right. And it broke me. So I did go ahead, back up a little bit to have the abortion. In fact, the lady had to just walk me through it. I was so shy that my mom would ask me, to go in the store for her and get a loaf of bread, and I couldn't. I just like, oh, I might not do it right. I can't do that. Yeah. So this lady literally led me through the whole process. She asked me to babysit for her on Friday night. And what she really did is spent the night with her. The next morning she got a taxi, had me taken to the airport, had me flown to New York, which was the only place at the time that would be able to do an abortion legally. And I was scared to death. I got off the plane, and they said you would just see a sign that said women's clinic.
Oh, wow.
So I was really just, led around and had no idea how to do anything like that myself. And when I went to the clinic, it was all kind of a blur, but all I remembered is the clinic was right beside a nightclub, and it was called the Copacabana. It was right beside that in New York. This little scared teenager by myself. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a tough experience. So I had the abortion that morning, and by that afternoon I was hemorrhaging, and all I remember is this staff was saying, we have to get her out of here because she's going to scare away the other clients from, with her bleeding. So, and they did get it stopped. And I mean, it wasn't any time till they had me back in a taxi, going back to the airport, flying back to Memphis. And another girl was seated beside me on the airplane, and we flew all the way back to Memphis and never said a word to each other. It's like in our heart, they had told us it was nothing. They told us it wasn't a baby, but just something in our spirit. I know me. It was just some deep shame settled in. Yeah. Even though I was believing what a doctor told me,
right.
I just felt something's not right here. I think I've been lied to. Mm-hmm. And so we did not speak the whole way back to Memphis. So when I got to Memphis at the airport, my boss had led me or had arranged for a taxi to be there. And the taxi took me back to my place of work because my parents thought I was babysitting for her the night before, and I was working all day the next day when I was actually in New York having this serious surgical abortion. Mm-hmm. So I got back to the shop, and I went in the back door of the mall where the store was. And when I came in the back door through the stockroom, I could see my parents sitting out on benches in front of the store waiting to pick me up because I'd had car trouble or something. They were going to have to pick me up that day. Mm-hmm. And I literally barely made it. It was like probably 5 till 9, and I was supposed to get off at 9, and they were there early to pick me up. So when I came in the door, I kind of had to act like I was helping close up shop, and then went out the door. And I remember walking up to my mom, and she said, "Honey, are you okay? You look so pale. You don't look like you're feeling okay." I said, "I'm not, Mom. Can we just go home?" Mm-hmm. And they did not know what I had done or where I had been for years.
Wow.
For years. Yeah.
That was hard going through that without having their support or anybody knowing what was going on with you.
It really was, because it was in October, and by January, and they started talking about Roe v. Wade, and I was just devastated and just riddled with the shame, and had been deceived, and I was angry. I thought, I don't think I could have done that had I known.
Right.
But I don't know. Even the doctor at that time may have partially believed that. But I just believed what I was told and thought, well, that's a good way out. Yeah, I just don't have to be pregnant anymore. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was a really, really rough decision. So because of that decision, that was at age 18. So at age 21, I was just desperate to find someone that I could marry so I could have another baby. Mm-hmm. And I did that. And I actually had always thought I would marry a youth director or a pastor's son because, I was a church kid. Mm-hmm. But I actually ended up purposely trying to find someone who was pretty bad because I felt so bad about myself.
Yeah.
I thought,
you didn't think you were worthy.
Well, I felt like a murderer, and even though I had no idea, when I found out the truth, that's how it made me feel. So I did find someone who thought I was pretty cute and thought he'd want to marry me. And he was, he had been in jail. He'd been on drugs. I thought, perfect. That's all that I deserve. And then I didn't know him very well. I married him pretty quickly after I met him. And wasn't long after we were married that I found out he was very abusive, physically abusive. Mm-hmm. And we were actually married 9 months and 1 day, and I had a baby. Yeah, so that was kind of my goal, but little did I know, by marrying somebody like this, it put the baby in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. Because he was, like I said, physically abusive to me, but he also began being very aggressive and to the baby. And I remember one weekend I just felt like I have got to escape. I was kind of like that little childhood poem, Peter, Peter, Pumpkin Eater, had a wife and couldn't keep her, put her in a pumpkin shell. There he kept her very well. He let my driver's license expire, would not let me renew. I had no car. He just had his. And so I was literally a prisoner in my own home with this little baby. But one weekend I convinced him that I really missed my parents. We were living in Memphis, and my parents just lived across the bridge in Arkansas, about 30 minutes from the bridge. So I convinced him I just needed, for my son and I to have a weekend away. And he wouldn't have minded that because I ended up finding like ladies' phone numbers and things in his chest of drawers. And so I felt like he was, cheating on me as well. But I was able to escape, went to my parents' home, and they had no idea of the abuse. But I then just poured my heart out to them. And they were like, you cannot go back. And I'm like, yes, please help me. So they flew me to Georgia, where my brother was in seminary, and I lived with them. And they got a peace bond on my husband, and ended up getting a divorce from him. And because I think he thought that I would sue him for child support, he disappeared. And honestly, that was like an answered prayer. Yeah. Because I was so worried for my baby and for myself. I don't think, had we stayed with him, I don't even know if I would be here today. It was that bad. But anyway, God got me through all of that. And then when I was 28, I remarried, and my son was 6 at the time. And I had 2 more sons with the second husband. And then after the second child, I was very reluctant, but felt forced by my husband to get a tubal ligation. Mm-hmm. And so I did that. I was 34 at the time. And I don't think I mentioned this, but backing up to when I was at home and we went to church all the time, I got baptized at age 6. The preacher was preaching, if you've done bad things, you're going to go to hell. And I thought, I don't want to do that. Uh-huh. So I, went down the aisle and got baptized and all that. But I didn't really understand at that age. I knew that I always loved God, and I knew He made the world. Mm-hmm. But I had head knowledge. I did not have the heart understanding or the heart knowledge. And so after I had gotten married the second time, I ended up at the age of 35 getting saved. And that was 7 years into my marriage. And my husband was raised in church, but I never saw fruit in his life, like the joy of salvation or the hunger for the word or any of that. So when I began to really live it and really, get close to the Lord, it caused conflict in our marriage. He felt like I was too, quote, religious. Mm-hmm. And looking back on when I got saved, I remember the verse, I wanted to share that, the verse that led me to salvation, because I always thought about people giving their testimony, and I thought that was just so awesome. And I thought, what do I even have to say? Mm-hmm. But this verse just stopped me dead in my tracks. James 2:19. You say you have faith, for you believe that there is one God. Good for you. Even the demons believe this, and they tremble in terror. And that brought me, Becky, to my knees. I was just like, wow. I know about God, but I didn't have His power. Right. I didn't have peace. I didn't have His strength to carry me through these difficult things that I had been going through. And that's when my life just radically changed. And I think my husband was he liked me as the little church girl, who would just go to church on Sunday. And we didn't neither one of us, we didn't drink. We didn't, do crazy things. It's just, I got too radical for him, too zealous for the Lord. Mm-hmm. And, wanted to have devotions with my children and that sort of thing. And it was just not something he had signed up for. Mm-hmm. So it really began to cause some problems in our marriage. Yeah. And then because I had gotten saved and because of my experience with abortion and feeling like I had, I guess, let God down, which I know now, there's not anything we can do that makes him love us any less. But I was determined to get a tubal reversal. And part of that, I still stand by. I don't judge anybody who does get their tubes tied or has anything done like that. But I'm like, to me, I felt like God just so impressed upon my heart that he is the author of life and he is the opener and closer of the womb. So for me, and because I was going to have a testimony about the abortion and that sort of thing, I just felt like I had to do that. But in doing that, I had 7 miscarriages in a row.
Oh.
Yeah. So
how old were you at that time?
I was 35 because I had my last son at 34. And that's when I had the tubal. So it was like only about a year and a half later that I had it reversed. And my husband was on board. He was like, yes, I shouldn't have, influenced you to do that. I knew you never had peace about it. And I just told him I really felt strong about it. So it wasn't like I did it without his blessing. I did have his blessing. But anyway, I got the reversal done, had the miscarriages, 7. And then that was at age 38, I think, when I finally got that done. It says, also, when I got the reversal, I just felt so strongly from the Lord that he wanted my testimony. And I hadn't planned to ever tell anybody about that. But I thought, I'll just sing in the choir louder. I'll teach another Sunday school class. Lord, don't ask. I was like, don't ask that from me.
Yeah.
But I always listened to Dobson. Our kids went to our Christian school in the town where we live. And I'd send them off to school and I'd start doing housework and dishes. And I'd always turn on the radio and listen to Dr. Dobson talk about, how to raise these boys, right? These children. Yeah. And it was either before or after his program announcement came on, and it said, if you have abortion in your past, don't hide it. God wants to use it. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, can't do that. But I knew he was speaking directly to me. And so at that point, I contacted Life Choices. And I said that I, had had an abortion. They had put on an ad on that same station. It said, if you've been through an abortion, there's hope and healing for you. And all that was the same morning, back to back, about the healing, that there was an opportunity for that, and that God wanted to use it. And I was just blown away. I was almost sick. Did you not want to share it because of just the shame of it, or because it would just bring back the pain of it? Probably both. Honestly, probably both. But the shame was so deep. Yeah. I was teaching Sunday school. I was singing at my church in the choir and involved in children's ministries. And I thought, if they ever knew, they would just kick me out of church, I'm sure. They would not want me teaching their children. I mean, I took the life of my baby. Mm-hmm. So I was just terrified at the thought of anybody knowing. Like I said, my best friend didn't know. Right. My only sister didn't know. My mother didn't know. I had kept this quiet, Becky, for 20 years. Wow. 20 years, when I felt like the Lord was asking me to share this. And it was like, I just couldn't believe it, and it's something I definitely did not want to do. But when I contacted Life Choices, I thought, you mean somebody else is going through this? There's hope and there's healing for you. There's other people out there that... Is that a counseling? It is a crisis pregnancy center. Okay. In Memphis. And so even though I was scared to death, I called them, and they set me up with a Bible study. It's called Forgiven and Set Free. And it takes you through 12 weeks of intensive study. And the first thing we begin to study is the character of God. And oh my goodness, how that touched my soul, to know he's not, angry with me about that he loves me and he has forgiven me. But I think I knew he could forgive me, but I couldn't forgive myself. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I heard about that Bible study, at first I thought, sure, okay, God, well, I'll go help those ladies who've had an abortion because I know you've forgiven me. And then when I got there, the first day of the Bible study, Becky, I got physically ill. Like I had to get up from the table and leave and go to the restroom. And I was sick. And then on the way home that evening, twice on the way home, I had to stop. And literally, I was sick.
What was going through your head during that time?
You know, I'm not sure. I knew God was wanting me to do this, and I knew that it was going to be painful. I knew I was going to have to revisit some of what I went through that I had buried for 20 years. And I knew that he was wanting to use me and use my testimony. But I was thinking I was going there to help others, and I was going there, and he showed me that it was me he was wanting to heal, that I was in no position to help anyone else because he had to bring healing into my life. And did he ever through his word. And since then, I've been instructed and trained to actually lead that Bible study myself. So now there's been several Bible studies that I have led and with a friend, co-led, and it's just brought women to freedom from the guilt, freedom from the shame of abortion. And you realize you're not the only one, and that there's hope and there's help.
Yeah, because I think so many people think that for those that are pregnant that don't want the baby, even if they fully understand it, they don't realize what's going to happen to them after that.
Oh no, not at all.
Because they think, I'll be free of this, I'll be fine, life will go on. But that's not a reality, is it?
And that's pretty much what I was told. You know, we're just going to get rid of this blob.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're a young teenager, you can just go on with your life and not have any repercussions. But there are some statistics. So many young women become suicidal after having had an abortion. So many women become promiscuous. So many women get involved in alcohol and drug abuse because it's not natural. You know, it's not natural to pay someone to take the life of your child. And you can, you know, reason through it or justify it in your mind, but your heart, I think, knows better. Just like me as a young teenager, I believe what the doctor said, but in my heart of hearts, I was sick afterwards. I just, not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, just sick. Just, it felt so dark. It's just hard to even comprehend. But they say statistically that 1 out of 4, if all women in any given church setting have been through an abortion, have gone with a friend to have an abortion, or have known someone, you know, or have a relative that has had an abortion. So it's touched 1 out of 4 women's lives. You know, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anything else you wanted to ask about that?
So when did you tell your parents and the rest of your family?
I told my mom when I was in the abusive marriage. They had, like I said, flown me to a safe place. But when he was able to contact me by phone, you know, he was threatening to tell them, because I told him. I mean, I didn't think he would care, you know, with all the things he'd been through and involved in. And he threatened to tell them. And I said, well, you're not going to need to do that because I'm telling them myself. And I told them before he had a chance to. Okay. And my mother said something that just broke my heart. She didn't understand. I have to realize that. But she said, Nita, I'm so glad that you had that as an option. And that was her grandchild.
Oh, wow.
And my child that I was just devastated over. But to her, I guess she thought that could have ruined my life, but it was just the opposite. The fact that I went through with the abortion could have ruined my life, but God redeemed it.
Yeah, because there was a lot of shame in that.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Or having a baby back then as a teenager.
Yes. So when the doctor said it's just a blob, we can just get rid of it, simple procedure, I thought, oh, I don't have to embarrass my parents.
Right, yeah.
Because I thought I deserve, whatever I have to go through, but I don't want to embarrass them. They were considered upstanding, people in the community, and I didn't want to hurt them. Mm-hmm. So, yes, it was a way to
get rid of the problem.
Bring shame. Yeah, not bring shame on my family. Yeah. But anyway, I guess that gets me through. Oh, one thing that's really exciting is how God redeems all of that, because what I do now is work at a crisis pregnancy center, and he had led me to become an RN. You have to be an RN, and then they train you to do ultrasound. So now I can use my testimony when these young girls come in and they're thinking about an abortion. I can say, no, there's no judgment, but I can say it wasn't good for me. I went through that as a teenager, and it was not good for me, and I get to tell them how. Right. How it was not good for me. And then I also go through the dangers of it, of the procedure itself. And so it's just amazing that it's full circle that I now get to do an ultrasound and let these ladies who are wondering what to do see their babies and hear their heartbeat. That is just amazing.
What is their reaction to that after seeing that?
I would say most of them. Some of them actually will be so touched, and it's like, oh, I didn't know it was already a baby. I didn't know. Even in this day and age of so much knowledge available, right. They don't go there. They're not going to go do a lot of research. So by seeing it, it has saved lives and changed lives. To see their baby or to hear that heartbeat, that's so powerful for them to be able to hear the heartbeat of their own baby. Yeah,
because especially probably that age group, they're hearing so much of that. It's not a baby. It's not anything. It's just a bunch of cells.
Still they're hearing that. Still they're believing that.
And so you're able to show them exactly what that is.
Exactly.
It is a human being.
Yeah, because, it might be kicking or sucking its thumb. And I'm like, wow, It's just quite an opportunity for me. And, there's a redeeming factor there too, that I get to be a part of that. Yeah. It's just such a blessing. I'm grateful I can still do that.
Well, and that's good that you're able to. I mean, it's bad that you had to experience that personally, but just look how God is using that as you're reaching these people that are thinking about doing the same thing. Right.
And that's him just giving us beauty for ashes, right? Mm-hmm. And I think about, you hear the cliche, he'll take our mess and make a message, our test and make a testimony, and I'm getting to live that. Yeah. And it's an honor, such an honor and a privilege to be able to do that and to help others.
So how was the reaction when you told your own children about that?
Oh, wow. When I told my own children, that's when, before I decided to go public with my testimony, I knew that I needed to get Jim's blessing. Mm-hmm. My husband's blessing, and that I also needed to talk to my 3 boys. And I talked to my oldest one. He was in high school, and he was tearful, but he was like, Mom, you have to do this. And, I got his blessing. And then the middle one, he was 10 years younger because of the 2 marriages. Mm-hmm. And so he was 10 years younger, and he also was... and I talked to him separately so they couldn't influence each other, because I wanted them all to, I had to obey God, but I still wanted to give them a heads up, and this is what I feel like God's wanting me to do. Right. So I did get their blessing. But anyway, the middle one was the same way. He was like, Mom, I'm proud of you, and this is what you need to do. My youngest, oh my goodness, he listened. He was tearful. He said, Mom, he said, it's kind of like you're walking down a dark forest path and you fell off a cliff. Mama, you have got to I'm about to cry thinking about it. You've got to let these ladies know there's a cliff there.
Oh, wow.
Is that not beautiful?
How old was your son?
He was 8.
Oh, my goodness.
He was 8 years old, and that's what he told me. He said, you've got to let them know, Mama, there's a cliff there. And if that wasn't a big stamped okay from him, I'm just like, okay. And went forward and, began speaking in churches and, of course, started with my home church. Let me tell you about my home church. And this was a little Baptist church in a little small town. I knew that God wanted me to give, because I checked with my family, and I knew He wanted me to speak in the church before I would go more public. And the night before, we had a ladies' event, a retreat, and I shared with my pastor's wife and all the ladies that this is what I would be doing the next morning, and shared my testimony. Said, would y'all please pray for me? Well, one of them was a deacon's wife, so she went home from the retreat and told her husband. And that morning, when I went to church the next morning, he stopped me. He said, Miss Nita, you do not have to do this. You do not have to go through this. That can be between you and God. That's pretty, rough for you to go through. I said, no, I have to. I said, God, has asked me to do this, and I have to obey Him. And just pray for me. And I had laryngitis that day. Talk about the enemy trying to, make you give up. And my prayer was that the little lady that sat on the back row that was so hard of hearing, that she could hear every word that I said, even with laryngitis. So I did go ahead and speak. And I thought, I guess I'll not be teaching Sunday school anymore or singing in the choir, but God asked me to do this. I have to do it. And at the end of service, I was almost stampeded by people wanting to hug my neck and whisper things in my ear like, Nita, that could have been me, or, whisper a prayer to me. It was just so precious, and it was just overwhelming support, which did give me liberty to then go on and go public. And the next day after I talked in church, there was a knock at my door. And I opened the door, and there was a lady there, and she stood back a ways, like she had her head down. She wouldn't even look up at me. She reached her arm out, and in her hand was a jar of pickles. Now, she didn't know how much I love pickles, but God did. And this lady, she brought me this gift of pickles because what I had shared touched her heart. And I never asked her what that was all about, but I knew there was a story there. I knew that maybe she had gone through what I had gone through, or had some failures in her life and just really appreciated what I had shared with them that day.
Right.
But God let me be gifted with pickles. Isn't that kind of funny?
That is.
But it was just real significant to me that happened. And then now when I share my story, almost every single time that I share my story, I will get, like if I'm at a women's meeting, I will get a call or a text before I even get home. Like, hey, Nita, can we talk? I've been through what you've been through, but nobody knows. Can we talk? And then if it works out, I can plug them into the Bible studies that I teach.
Right. And I think you said that you do give your phone number out.
I have in small settings, yes.
Yeah. And I think that I don't think we'll give your phone number out here, but we might have some way of people contacting you either through email or through your work, possibly.
Right, probably email.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably email.
Yeah. What is your email address?
It is Stone, STONE .Nita, NITA, @yahoo.com. And I would be perfectly fine with people that would like to contact me or needed help in this area. There's also an organization in Arkansas called Deeper Still. And they do what I do, but the studies that I teach are 12 weeks long. And they have a very in-depth weekend, which works for so many people that have little children or can't get off work or can't, come to a night Bible study. But it's called Deeper Still. And you could just go to deeperstill.org and get help from them. But they do a free retreat. It's like accommodations are free, food is free, everything is free. And that's something I can highly recommend. I have a friend who went through that, and it's a good Christian organization that does this.
Because you do see, and I have heard that, like I said, that so many women that went through that, it's not over whenever the procedure's over.
Oh, no.
It's lasts sometimes a lifetime. And just like you, just being able to not really forgive yourself for a while.
Right.
Even though God had forgiven you for it.
Right. And what I realized and what I learned in the study was the character. Like I said, the character of God is what convinced me that I must forgive myself, because otherwise it's like I'm negating what Christ did for me on the cross.
Because you can't undo what you did.
No.
So there's got to be a way forward, and that is forgiveness from God.
Forgiveness, and to learn from it. And then just like the verse in the Bible that says, as you've been comforted, go and comfort others.
Yes.
And because I've been through this, and I know the shame and guilt of this, God chose me to be a part of post-abortion ministry and help other women gain freedom. And the Bible study itself is called Forgiven and Set Free. And truly, you learn how to gain freedom and forgive yourself through this. So it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And I'm open to anyone that wants help with that. I have a little bit more of my testimony if you'd like to hear.
I do.
At age 58, I found out after this was, we were married when I was 28. So, yeah, almost 30 years into a marriage, I found out my husband had been cheating on me with his girlfriend from college. So I offered him forgiveness, and he decided, well, I love her. I want to marry her. So he left. And so immediately what I did after I'd offered forgiveness, I just got a lawyer and began the divorce proceedings. I was just devastated and lost because my identity had been in being a wife and a mother, which is what I always wanted to be, a wife and a mother. I became a nurse out of necessity for money, needing money, but all I ever wanted to be was a wife and a mom. And I had one son in college and two that had gotten married at the time. So I just felt like, gosh, I was just going to be totally alone. But I have to back up just a little bit now. Before I found out he was cheating on me, he had actually left me about a year before that and moved to the lake house that he had just finished building. He had told me that he moved there because he wasn't happy with me anymore, and he just needed some time to think. And his dad had killed himself, and this totally just wrecked. In fact, my same son that had given me the bit of wisdom and the liberty to go forth with my testimony said, Mama, when Papa killed himself, he killed y'all's marriage and he killed our family.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah. So that's pretty much what happened. But a year before that, like I said, he had left me and was living at the lake house. And my son, my youngest one again, came home from spring break and had a book. He had actually gotten it from my mom, but he's an avid reader, and the book was Redeeming Love. And he said, Mom, I don't know why, but I know God is wanting me to give this book to you to read. And I'm not so much a reader, but he said, you need to read this book. Now, he didn't know his dad was cheating. I didn't know his dad was cheating at this point in time. The year before he left me, it was just like, I'm not happy. I don't want to live here. I'm going to go live at the lake. And I read that book, and I told my son, I said, that's a beautiful story. It was of Gomer. I always get them wrong. Gomer, yeah. And
Hosea. We're talking about that in church right now. Had it. So that's why it's so fresh on my mind. I always
get it wrong. Anyway, Gomer and Hosea. And I knew that redemption story from the Bible, but to read that book, I just said, well, honey, I loved the book. But he was concerned about his daddy leaving. I said, but Daddy's not cheating. He's just confused. He just needs to get away and think. And that was in March. He left me in January, and then this was March. Well, the next January was my birthday, and he was still living apart. And I said, honey, we need to figure this out. Are you wanting to leave? Are you, going to stay? It's just hard to be in limbo. And he said, well, I think we need to try to work it out. That was on a Wednesday. He'd taken me out to eat for my birthday in the middle of January. And that was on a Wednesday. And I think God did this. He wanted me to find out, because on Saturday, he told me he wanted to make a go of it to try. On Saturday, I found out that he had been seeing someone for years.
For years?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And so that's when I had told him, I found out. And that's when he said, he loved her. He wanted to marry her. And I was like, he just told me he wanted to work it out. I was so confused. But at any rate, so after that, I got the lawyer. Okay, I had the lawyer for 6 months. And God just impressed upon me that book, Redeeming Love, that I made a vow to him before God and before witnesses, for better, for worse. And this was worse. Mm-hmm. But I was not to be the one to leave. So I was 6 months into it. I think I owed $5,000 to the lawyer, but I had to go to the lawyer and I had to tell him, I'm dropping the divorce. The lawyer, with tears in his eyes, told me, you don't owe me a penny.
Oh, wow.
Because he too was a Christian and he felt like that's what he should do. So I didn't owe any money. Then Jim picked it up and then later divorced me. But it gave me peace that not, to pat myself on the back. This was all from God. But then if my kids are married and have a difficult marriage or something like this come up, they don't have to leave. Mm-hmm. Jesus, he hates divorce. God hates divorce. But you do have license to leave if there's infidelity. Mm-hmm. But that's not his desire. Mm-hmm. His desire is reconciliation. So I just wanted to stand on my Christian principles and be an example to them of that they could stay and work it out, But anyway, so I've been single now for 18 years, and I am okay. I'm content. God is enough. And I still, like I said, have the ministry. I'm not a paid nurse. I volunteer for this ministry to do the ultrasounds. And I do a prison ministry where I teach a Bible study. And I have 12 grandchildren that I get to love on. And
wow. You're very busy, though.
I am, and I love it. So I just feel very blessed to be where I'm right now. So I also have the testimony of you can be by yourself. You don't have to have, a husband, and you can still have an abundant life. Mm-hmm. And it's all about God. Mm-hmm. And like I said, he definitely is enough. There was something I wanted to read here. Oh, and this verse has always spoke to me with all this that I've been through. I know many people have been through much more, but with what I've been through in my life, this verse has been so important. Habakkuk 3:17, even though the fig trees have no blossoms and there are no grapes on the vines, even though the olive crop fails and the fields lie empty and barren, even though the flocks die in the fields and the cattle barns are empty, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in the God of my salvation. And believe me, that is a choice, and that is something you can only do with God's strength. But I feel like that's kind of been my mantra, that through all of this, you can still choose that he's enough and choose to praise him in the midst of it. And then I love Revelations 12:11. It says, they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. This means your story is a weapon. You're not just telling your truth. You're releasing a testimony that terrorizes darkness, because what almost took you out will now take others into freedom.
Thank you for joining us today. New episodes release every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe and get notified when a new episode is available. You can listen on the Journey to Salvation website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. So, where are you on your journey to salvation?